And multiple reports. Anderson, who is entering his sixth season in the NFL, has spent his entire career with the Broncos. He had his first career 1,000-yard season last year. In other NFL news, James Harrison is retiring for the second time around, and this time, he says it's for real. Harrison posting on his Instagram account this morning that he, quote, missed way too much for way too long, and I'm done. End quote. Harrison turns 40 next month. The undrafted outside linebacker out of Kent State played 15 years in the NFL. He is retiring after spending the end of last season with the Patriots, but no doubt he'll be remembered for his time in Pittsburgh. He recorded a franchise record 80.5 sacks in 14 seasons with the Steelers, and get this, 76.5 of those came after he turned 29 years old. The Philadelphia 76ers are mourning the loss of Hal Greer. A 10-time All-Star, Greer played his entire 15-year career with the Sixers, formerly the Syracuse Nationals, who drafted him with the 13th pick of the 1958 draft. Greer scored over 20,000 points in his career and was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1982. He was 81 years old. The 76ers plan to celebrate Greer's life and legacy at tonight's playoff game against the Heat.
Our thoughts and prayers are with his loved ones. The 76ers put the league on notice Saturday, crushing the Heat 130-103. Ben Simmons led the way with 17 points, 9 rebounds, 14 assists, while his team totaled 18 made threes. Now, on Friday, Stephen A., you said the Cavs are going to win the East. Max, you said the Raptors. Mr. Kellerman, I'd like to start with you. It's Philadelphia. Making you question that little pick you made in the East.
Yeah, they have me questioning it, sure, because they have more upper-end talent than Toronto. I'm still taking Toronto, who I think is more experienced, deeper, and play more cohesively on both sides of the ball at the moment than Philadelphia does. But I like Philadelphia over the Cavs. I like a lot of teams more than the Cavs. I'm telling you, the Cavs aren't that good. What Philadelphia has, the way you watch the Cavs just kind of meandering around the court, not knowing what the hell they were doing, no offensive game plan. I mentioned they weren't closing out on shooters, they weren't protecting the rim, all that stuff, but also just not seeming to run any offense, really. Not seeming to have an idea of what they're doing. Sixers are the opposite. Sixers seem to know exactly what they're doing. They play with real pace. They play that European style of ball movement, but with elite talent at two positions, ball handler and big, and Embiid's not even back yet. And that makes a big difference. Now, I will say this. They looked amazing against the Heat, and I thought that would be a tough series, and I still suspect it could be. But the Heat really don't have a ton of talent. Even Dragic, he's maybe I know he made the All-Star team, but is he a top 10 point guard? You can't name 10 point guards better than Dragic. If he is a top 10, he's just barely. He's an above-average starter is what I would say about Dragic. And one or two other positions, including maybe Whiteside, you can say that about. But this is not a team that does it with talent. They do it with toughness. And when Philadelphia plays another cohesive unit that not only has some toughness, but also talent, we'll see what's what. Finally, like they are for real. And Stephen A., I've taken a lot of shots at Bryan Colangelo. I think that Hinkie was much smarter and a better idea for them. But I will say this about Colangelo. He's done a very good job surrounding the two generational talents that Hinkie collected by tanking with shooters. You brought this up the other day, Stephen A. He's got not just guys who can shoot, but guys who can play basketball well enough to justify leaving them out on the floor for significant minutes and can shoot at a high level. Colangelo's done that very well. Yes, the Sixers have me a little bit, Stephen A., biting my fingernail, nervous about my Toronto pick, I have to admit it.
Bottom line is that Colangelo was a GM, not just somebody that was assigned to tank seasons and create cap space and get high draft picks. He went out, he gave J.J. Redick a one-year deal at $23 million. You look at stuff like that and picking up Marco Bellinelli. That's a huge pickup. You can't ignore that. But here's what the reality is that they certainly given me trepidation as well. And I'm going to go a step further. I'm looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers squad, and here's where I'm starting to lose faith in them. I know it's just one game. It's not that they lost. It's how lifeless they looked in losing. I looked at a team that didn't seem to care nearly as much as it should. I saw a team that appeared indifferent and apathetic at times, a superstar in LeBron James that came on in the second half. But when you start out a game not attempting a shot in the first quarter and you're the greatest player in the world, that's very problematic. And that's how I look at that. And so to me, when there's a question about your interest, that's a huge problem. But then I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, okay? And I'm thinking about the fact that not only are they long, not only do they have a multitude of shooters in Redick, in Bellinelli, in Covington, in Saric. I mean, you know, the list goes to this kid Anderson as well. They got shooters all over the place. But the biggest thing about the Philadelphia 76ers that can't be ignored is they have length at almost every position, especially when Redick is obviously off the floor. They have length and they defend. So the fact that they're willing to get up in you and they make shots so tough to come by, I did not really realize and appreciate how good they were defensively. But seeing them, yeah, we can look at Miami and the lack of talent. We can look at the fact that Dwayne Wade's playing 19 minutes, only taking 7 shots or whatever. You have to figure out a way for that experience to be implemented into the equation if you're Eric Spoelstra, considering the fact that you got Richardson and others who can't seem to hit the backside of Broad Street. So when you look at it from that perspective, the Philadelphia 76ers may be formidable, and if the Cleveland Cavaliers don't show up and act like they're actually interested in playing basketball, I said it last week and I'll say it again, Philadelphia 76ers is going to end up going to the finals, and that's just the way that I look at it.
I don't care if the Cavs are interested in playing basketball. They may not be good enough to beat the Pacers. Let's say they are. They ain't going to beat the Raptors. And let me tell you what I saw with I'm still taking the Raptors over the Sixers because I need to see the Sixers look like they did last night.
I was never taking the Raptors over the Sixers. Okay.
Against a team with better talent than the Heat. That's all. But let me tell you what I saw with the Raptors. We know they're deep. Their second unit's really good and all that. What I saw in the win against Washington, in a game where it looked like, maybe they're going to lose, they're going to do it again, they're going to choke in the playoffs, Lowry, and what have I been saying all year, basically, Stephen A., or at least since the All-Star break, Lowry and DeRozan, I don't know why the Raptors do this, but in tight games late, sometimes it's not tight late because they're top 5 offense and defense, they have a nice lead, but when it's tight late, they ISO those guys too often, and they go to get away from what made them good all game long. What I saw in the win against Washington is late in the game, Lowry and DeRozan used their ability to penetrate to find teammates. It wasn't about ISO. If they do that, I think they're just too deep, too veteran, and too good right now for the Sixers, but I admit the Sixers are live.
Here's the question. Was it a product of DeRozan and Lowry getting it done, or John Wall not getting it done in the fourth quarter?
I think DeRozan and Lowry's play enabled them to win, but I hear you.
Yeah. Right now, guys, it feels like...
I think
Go ahead, Stephen.
Wall and Beal have got to get it. They're what Washington has. Wall and Beal in the fourth quarter have got to elevate their game. They're too good. They're good enough, but they've got to elevate their play in the fourth quarter. One is being paid $175 million. The other is in the midst of a $138 million contract. You don't get those kind of dollars to disappear in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, as far as the Sixers, though,
you know what I hear, Molly?
Yep, go ahead.
Molly, you know what I hear coming up on this show?
What?
One day, pretty soon? The superstar most in need of a trade, or the team most needing to trade their best player. Because Kawhi is a candidate, so is John Wall. Something's got to give in Washington. They are less than the sum of their parts for too long now.
No question. We'll leave it on.
If they lose this series, I agree with Max. It might be time to move somebody. And it might be Wall because you might get the most value for him because he is a terrific player. But you can't have them both on the court not getting it done in the fourth quarter.
Meanwhile, for the Sixers, it feels like all upside. Their biggest problem is how they're going to work in arguably their best player back into the lineup. I call that good problems to have. Coming up, Anthony Davis filled the stat sheet in his first career playoff win, but are his Pelicans still in need of some help? We'll explain. And yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day across Major League Baseball parks, and one controversial person posted something about it that is Stephen A. all sorts of fired up. Stay right there. It's First Take.
I am the one and only DQ chicken strip